Hello and welcome to another lecture of Government and Politics. I am Muhammad Tahmidul Islam, lecturer, Department of Law, World University of Bangladesh, and today I am going to discuss about types of government, part 2, colonial totalitarianism and oligarchy. So first, let's talk about colonial government. A colony is formed by a group of people who come from a different part of the world and establish a permanent abode in a new land and who are ruled by the laws and customs of the country of origin rather than the host country. So, in the after the Middle Ages, we have seen that European countries they sailed ship and discovered new lands, and through the discovery of new lands they have also discovered that those lands are inhabited by other people that they previously did not know of, and those people also did not know the Europeans. So the Europeans actually claimed the lands they stepped on and created colonies, created some forms of government that resemble their country of origin. So that is how the colonial government got established, and that is how it grew. Colonial power is the power of a sending country to rule over the lands, the people, and the resources of the host country. So the host country has a lot of land, and it also has people and many natural resources. So colonial power, or the colonial country, actually tries to extract those resources from the host country and take it back to the colonial country to enrich the colonial country. So that is the relationship between a colonial power and the subjugated power. Colonialism is based on exploitation of natural resources, human resources, business opportunities, and land appropriation for the sake of enriching the sending country or colonial country. So, colonial country's main target is to subjugate the people and to extract and exploit the natural resources from that land that they have acquired. But they're not going to annex the place to say that it is part of the mainland. Why are they not going to do that? They're not going to do that because, first of all, the colonial power were far away from the colonies, so there were no land boundary between the colonial country and the subjugated country. So administration was fairly difficult. And then another is that if the colonial power annexes that land, it will have to provide the people with the same rights and liberties that the mainland people has, and the mainland people can call themselves citizens. The colonial people will also be able to call themselves citizens of that colonial power. So if the people in that land have the power of citizenship, and they have the power to elect representatives from themselves, the colonial idea or the colonial target is not going to be fulfilled, because it is the target of the colonial power is to extract natural resources and business opportunities from one country to another. Colonial governments rule the host country's people by two main methods. Number one, they install a total control over the governmental functions of the host country, replacing the existing ruler. So it is called direct rule. So colonial power can directly rule the people. They can replace and actually eradicate the previous administration of the host country. And number two, they can take assistance from the existing form of government and install necessary rules and administrators when there are lacking. So it is called indirect rule. So they can directly rule, or they can take help from the existing ruler, and in some cases they used to buy the ruler. They used to give the ruler a lot of gold, silver, and a lot of facilities, a lot of arms to make the ruler their friend, and the ruler will rule the country for themselves. So colonial governments do not have full participation by the local population. So local populations do not have any say in the colonial governmental system, especially in those aspects where the interest of the colonial power is at question. For example, trade, international relations, taxation, etc. So when it comes to trade, when it comes to international trade, business, and diplomacy, and also taxation, the people of the subjugated country has little to no say, because colonial power has the target to exploit as much resource as it can from the host country. So the people of the host country seldom has any say. The history of colonial government is the history of exploitation and suffering of native population, as they themselves and their lands and resources were used to enrich the colonial powers during their subjugation. Lack of representation from the local people meant that the taxes collected from the local regions were not used to improve the living standards of the local population, but to facilitate a tighter grip over them. After the Second World War, most colonies were liberated and people gained autonomy and the right to self determination. Still, some legacies remain that are impending progress in those states. So, here we can see that many countries in the world were previous colonies, and those countries were ruled by the colonial powers, and those colonial powers had one goal in mind. What was that goal? The goal was to extract as much natural resource that they can from those host countries. And in the process, the people of the host country suffered the most because they worked for the colonial power, but they did not get the proper rights and they did not get the proper facilities that they should have gotten, because the resources were extracted from their land. Their people were working for the enrichment of the colonial power. So, this was the reality of the colonial system, and therefore, we are seeing that nowadays colonial power is kind of non-existent. This kind of power doesn't exist after World War II. So now let's go to totalitarianism. Totalitarianism is a total control over the people and their lives of a state by a political entity that cannot be challenged nor can it be changed. So in a totalitarian country, the political party is one and only, and it cannot be changed in any circumstances. All resources and industries belong to the ruling class in a totalitarian state. So, in that state, we will see that the industries, the businesses, and every important aspect of the state is controlled by the ruling party or the ruling class. Totalitarian dictators use propaganda, state resource, and secret police to eliminate dissent and eradicate any political opposition. So, in a totalitarian state, there is no political opposition, and if any people want to gather around and they want to talk about politics, secret police will break them up, secret police will persecute them, and the totalitarian dictator always uses propaganda. They always try to portray the totalitarian dictatorship as a force for good by using radio, television, newspaper, print media, publishing books, etc. And fear is also the tool by which a totalitarian dictator keeps his or her subjects in line. So, a totalitarian dictator firstly uses propaganda, and if that doesn't work, that dictator also uses force or intimidation to keep the people in line, to keep the people subjugated, so that the people are fearful of that leader. So, here I have indicated some general characteristics of a totalitarian state, which includes laws created and enforced by a single dictator. So, there will be a single dictator, a person who will be the ultimate power holder of that country, and that person will create all the laws. The presence of one ruling political party. So, totalitarian states usually have one ruling political party, and other parties are persecuted to such an extent that they are non existent. Strict censorship, if not total control of the press. So, censorship is another tool for a totalitarian dictator to control the narrative, to control the media, to control the news that the people hear. So, censorship is always there. Constant broadcasting of pro-government propaganda. So always in those totalitarian state, we will see that pro-government propaganda or pro-government news, pro-government programs, songs, other types of media are always broadcasted to the people, and the people have no choice but to listen to that or see that. Mandatory population control measures. So totalitarian states want to control the people and their every aspect. So population control is their another method. Prohibition of certain religious or political groups and practices. So they always fear religion and they always fear political dissent. So that is why they ban religious gatherings, they ban political gathering, and they also control what the religious leader can say or what they cannot say. Prohibition of any form of public criticism of the government or the people in power. So, in a totalitarian state, we will see that the government are so fearful of the people that they will arrest and they will torture anyone um, who defames the government, who criticizes the government, and the government will also create laws that will outlaw or that will make it a criminal offense to criticize the government and the people in power. So laws enforced by secret police forces or the military. So there will be some black laws like blasphemy law or digital security law. These kind of black laws will be enforced by police force that are secretive, that take away people from their homes, and those people are never found. So this kind of police force exists in a totalitarian state, and the military also works against the people in that state. So here we are seeing a few infamous totalitarian leaders of the world. So from the left to the right, we are seeing in the upper left, we are seeing Stalin in the Soviet Socialist Republic. He was also a totalitarian dictator who killed many people to strengthen his rule and who sacrificed a lot of Russian lives in the World War II. And then in the upper right corner, we are seeing Hitler, and Hitler was a fascistic leader. He was a fascist, and he also was a totalitarian dictator. Also, we're seeing in the lower left corner, Mao Zedong, who was the Chinese communist leader who actually came into power after World War II and who drove away the Chinese nationalist people from the mainland China to Taiwan. And till today, his party is controlling China. And he was also a totalitarian dictator who suppressed and who killed a lot of people who did not like the communist idea. And then in the middle, in the lower middle, we're seeing Benito Mussolini, who was the Italian dictator, and he um, established a type of fascism that was unique in that age in Italy, and he uh, teamed up with Hitler in World War II to eradicate the Jewish population and to establish an Italian Germany empire. And also, lastly, we are seeing Kim Il Sung in the bottom right corner, and he actually was the founding father. He is called as the founding father of North Korea, and he was also a totalitarian communist dictator who and whose family member, whose extended family members still control North Korea and subjugate its people. So now let's talk about oligarchy. Oligarchy is the type of government where a few families and a close group of people with business and political connection have total control over the ruling of a state. So, in the previous lectures, we have talked about monarchy. In the monarchic system, the king and his family was all powerful, and the king could appoint anyone in any position, and the king could punish anyone that he does not like. So, in the oligarchic system, we are seeing that the kingship has devolved into a sort of a pseudo democratic measure. So, here we are seeing that the power of the king has been divided among a certain group of people who are at the top of that society. Greek philosopher Aristotle described oligarchy as the rule of a country by a few people who are corrupt and unjust. When the richer and the most powerful class of the society grabs the total political control of a country, it can be said to be an oligarchy. Not all citizens have the same rights, and not all of them can participate in the decision making process of the country they live in. So, in an oligarchic system, we will see that there may be some elections, but actual power holders always remain the same because they can determine who gets the political power and who gets the business, who gets to do business in that state. So, in an oligarchy, we will see that there are massive levels of corruption, and those corruptions are done by a small group of people. Oligarchy is also called by the name of plutocracy, which means the rule by the rich. So, plutocracy means rule by the rich, and oligarchy is also rule by the rich. So, the rulers are the richest people in an oligarchy. The Russian Federation is a prime example of a modern oligarchy. After the fall of the United Soviet Socialist Republic, or USSR, which was the biggest socialist republic in the world, top communist officials who amassed wealth outside the republic quickly bought most of the private land, businesses, industries, and services to establish monopoly with assistance from the government. So, in the socialist country, amassing wealth is frowned upon. So, what do the leaders do? They take the wealth and amass them outside their country. For example, in uh, in in the lands of Switzerland. So in those countries, there are relaxed rules regarding bank accounts. So they take the money from their country and amass it in Swiss banks. So when the Socialist Republic fell, they brought the money back and they bought everything that they could from the government because they had better connection with the government. So that is how they got richer, and even now them and their family members are controlling the whole Russian economy. In an oligarchy, the ruling class and their extended friends and families own major businesses of the country, and they safeguard each other in keeping their monopolies over political and economic power. So, in this picture, we are seeing it is actually a cartoon, and in this cartoon, we are seeing that previously there was monarchs, and now the monarch is in ruin because because they don't have any power. So now the power is reserved for oligarchs. It is a group of people. It is a group of few people who have the most power and who rule like king, but they're not called kings. They're called businessmen. They're called, presidents. But they have the power of the king as well, and the general people are always at the bottom of that state structure. So, this is the lecture on the types of government part 2, colonial, totalitarianism, and oligarchy. I hope you have understood the lecture content, and if you face any problem regarding understanding the lecture content, please ask me in the comment section and I will answer accordingly. So thank you so much for participating in today's class, and I hope to see you all in the next class. Thank you.